So today we're gonna put chains on the Kubota. It's getting time to do maple syrup, and once you get out in the woods, it's really hard to get any traction. So today we're gonna go ahead and put a set of chains on. So here's what the chains look like. And when you do these, you got to make sure that they're not wrapped around each other. So you just lay them down right under the tire. Make sure they're all straight. And not latched together. And you want to have them exactly the way they'll be on the tire. So like these have what they call a V-bar, which is this extra piece of metal in there for extra traction. You need to make sure that those are facing down. So those are going to be the ones that are actually going into the ice and the dirt and the mud. So you lay these out flat like that. Chains are kind of tricky because when you put them away, these are new, so they put them in the box fairly decent. But sometimes you'll get one, you know, when you put them away, if they're wrapped like that and you try to lay them out, see how that one's a little bit twisted? It's not being pulled right. So you have to take that and you need to put that back through. Oop, and then I just made it worse, see? And you want to put that back through, and then it's being pulled perfect on that link. So like I said, these were new out of the box, so they're pretty much all even. I see I pulled it here, so I'm going to put that right up underneath there. Pull them all tight, and then we're gonna back up over the top of them. Sometimes what I do is I'll jack up the machine and go ahead, but if you're like out in the woods already and you can't do that, so I'm going to go ahead and put them both on. They're both down on the ground so I can back over at one time. There, we got those down, so we will go ahead and back over those. One thing I do like to do, especially with the Kubotas, there's not a lot of room between the frame or the tire and the frame, so you got to make sure that your chains are really tight so they don't catch on anything underneath there. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll let some air out of the tires, and then the tire will be down, so then you roll over the top, get the chains as tight as you can, then fill your tires back up with air. That way the chains are really tight and they're not flopping as you're driving. So I'm going to go ahead and back up over these. So now I'm on top. You want to back up far enough so you're not like trying to get these clamps in a bad spot. better if you can get them in a spot where you can reach them good. So now there, that's about where you want it. You want these right there, and then the other side is pretty close to that. So now you'll take this side and just hook it. You can reach it. So I'm just gonna hook it in the end one. I know that's not gonna be tight enough, just being in that very end one. You know, maybe I'll give it one more. So now this one's almost going to go into the third link, which, you know, that means this side's going to be tighter. Now that's not very tight. So what we're going to do is we're probably going to have to drive a little bit to try to get them to loosen up. And then we'll tighten them up again and we'll go that way. The other thing is sometimes if you can't, you want them even on both sides, so there's about the same distance down the tire. So this is about here. It's better though to almost, if you don't have the bungee cords or the springs that they put on the outside, it's almost better to have this side just a little bit tighter, because if they do loosen up and come off, you want them to fall off the machine. You don't want them to fall off this way and go and get wound up into all that stuff. But you want to keep a close eye on them all the time. If they get loose, give them another notch. Like these are new ones, so they're going to stretch a little bit, so you need to keep an eye on that. So now we have them on, and we went ahead, drove it ahead. Make sure that they're riding about right on there, the way you want them, and they all look good. So I'm going to go ahead, and now what I did kind of sometimes, like I said before, is I let some of the air out. I kind of did that ahead of time. So now these call for 20 pounds, 20 psi they call it, and right now I got about 5 in there, so that's pretty close to not much. So if I go ahead and fill this up, now you'll see as the tire gets bigger, these chains will start getting tighter. And that way they don't flop around as much when you're driving. So there's almost 20. I'm going to go ahead and do 25 pounds because I do carry a lot of weight in here when we're doing saps. I guess that was only 15 pounds. Tell that they're starting to get a little tighter. Now, like I said, we'll drive this around a little bit and make sure that they are tight. They'll stretch a little bit, so you want to keep a close eye on them when you first put them on. There's about 25 pounds. They're tight, quite a bit tighter than they were before. They do move a little bit, but like I said, we'll go ahead and we'll tighten these back up again after we drive it around for a little bit. Once you get done, and you're going to have this set of chains for this thing all the time, you can go ahead and cut that extra off so it doesn't catch on anything. But for right now, I'm just going to leave it on there, and we're going to be driving slow. But before we get out in the woods, I'm going to cut that off. Otherwise, you can take it and wire it down so it can't flip when you're driving. That way, if you get new tires and there's better tread on them, they're a little bigger, you'll have another link to work with. But so we'll go ahead, fill up both of these tires, doing is driving slow in order for the chains to get where they're gonna ride on the tire. That way, if they're loose, they're gonna move around a little bit. So when we get back, we'll go ahead, check them, make sure they're all tight. You don't want to go too fast for this, because if they are loose, they will swing away from the tire as the tire spins, and it can catch something underneath or alongside, underneath the Kubota or whatever vehicle you're doing it on. So, like today, it's really icy. You can see all the ice out on the ground, but you know, it's not. So you can see this one is really tight, feels good. I don't think I got to do anything with that one. But now when you go over here, see how loose that one kind of is? I don't really like that. It's a little bit loose for driving down the road and stuff like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this one back up on this side, and it can just go there, and that kind of holds it. And I'm going to tighten this side up a notch. Now I undid that side because this side has just got a hook in it, so it's always a little bit harder to get. So now this, since that's in the third, we'll take that. Oh yeah, that is tighter already. Just gonna pull that into that notch, and then you force that down. And you want to catch that. See, now look how tight that is from just doing that. So we're gonna go one more time around. See if that loosens up again, or if it's not riding right on the lugs. See how this one is? You want it kind of like right out on the edge. That's why you want these on your tread. You don't want this off to the side, because that means that it's too far up on that side or too far up on this side. Nope, it would be the other way. That would mean that this link on the other side is right up here on the tire. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to drive it around one more time. This time should do it. I don't think we have to do any more with it after this. It'll be ready for the woods. So now we'll go ahead, give them a little pull. That's not too bad. That's a little bit looser than I would like to see it. I don't know, maybe this one. Yeah, that one's nice and tight. So either they look like they're in the same length, so that's one thing you want to check. Otherwise they can run sideways, and there's 3 links out on that side and 3 links out on this side. So they're in the same link, so they're the same size. I'm surprised that that one's tighter than this one is. Yeah. Now this could be from, it could be riding more so in this groove on more of the cross links, and that would make it a little bit looser. The other thing is, maybe I don't have as much air in this tire, or the tread is wore down a little more. I'm just gonna check this. Yeah, we're about 25, a little under 25. So maybe I could put a little more air in there, and that'll tighten that up. Now on these particular tires, they do say you should only run like 20 pounds of air in them. That's from the manufacturer. I like to run a little bit more when I have a lot of weight. That way you're not swaying as much. You don't want to go any more than that on these little tires. Like when I was using my four-wheeler for doing the same thing, I actually put tubes in my tire. These are tubeless tires, but I put tubes in those, and then once you put tubes in them, you can put a little bit more air in them because they're not as much pressure on the tire. But so I'm happy with as tight as these are. Like I said, when you're using chains, you don't want to go real fast down the road. You don't want it to go real fast anytime with chains. They're more for safety and for traction. They're not for speed. So, but you can see there's not a lot of room here. I got a new one of these. I'll have to replace that. In fact, maybe I'll rip that off so it doesn't catch. But now, if these are loose, as you're going around, they come away, they pull up from the centrifugal force of the tire, and they'll come away. Now, if there's something here, or if they come real loose, they can catch like this, and they'll rip that fender off. So, you just want to use common sense when using chains. They are for traction, they're not for sport driving. But once we get out in woods, you'll see, you know, what a difference these make when you're out there. Like last year, we didn't have chains, and we had to use the winch most of the time to come out. This year, we got the chains, and I'd be willing to bet that we shouldn't have to use the winch at all. So one thing I forgot to mention is on chains, like when you're laying them out, and I was saying on how with the V-bar, you put that down so it's on the outside. Now, if you have a set of chains that don't have the V-bar, which there are a lot of them, more of a road chain won't have that because these will rip up roads because they are so aggressive. These are more off-road in the woods. That's why I got these, because that's where I'm going to be most of the time. But if you have that kind of a chain, the way you tell which end goes out is you see how they latch onto the other outside chain, the cross links. You always want these hooks to be out. You don't want these turned around and facing the tire. That's how you tell which way to put a chain on. So like these, they hook this way, and this is always out. You don't want this like being pushed into your tire, because eventually they're kind of sharp on the edges, and they will wear into the tire if you put them on wrong. So always make sure, that's how you make sure to put on a set of chains that aren't the V-bar style. So what we decided to do is go ahead and wire these up, because in case we do get new tires and the lugs would be bigger, that we don't have to actually add a link to the chain or something like that. So we're just going to keep this on here. We're going to go ahead and just put a little piece of wire on here. It doesn't take much because there's not any force on that at all. So I'm just going to take it, put it on there, and just give it a twist. So there's not much there to hold that. That's about all you need. I might go ahead and put one more piece in here too, just to make sure nothing comes loose. I got more of a loop there. That's not gonna matter. So you pull it away, give it a twist, and you can go ahead and cut that off. One thing is, like that right there, I don't like that. See how close that is to that tire? You could get that wedged in there and it'll go right through the side of the tire. So you want to clip that off as far as possible, like that. That way it's going to be really hard to get it twisted in there in order to hit that tire. That's my fine homestead, the way we put chains on the Kubota, and thanks for watching.